Lamborghini, blue Medina, always beaming, rag top, chrome.
Like I said, it's been some time since my last video. Obviously, I've been a little bit distracted with the holidays coming up, and I have another little project I'm working on, which is getting my daughter a go-kart, so keep it quiet. But it needs a little bit of work to it, but it's almost done, and hopefully she'll love it on Christmas Day, and maybe get a little bit of the bug that I'm addicted to now with kind of all the speed and everything. So let's go ahead and talk about where I'm at now versus kind of where I left off. So when I last left off with you guys, I was short blocking the motor. Since then, I've taken the rebuilt cylinder head. I've replaced all of the exhaust valves that are stock with SuperTech stainless steel valves. The reason for that is at the higher horsepower levels, there's more heat, and therefore there could be a risk that the stock valves won't be able to handle that heat, drop into the cylinder, and then basically cause catastrophic damage. So we don't want that to happen, so I went ahead and replaced all of those with SuperTech stainless steel valves. I went ahead and used the L-ring head gasket and then put in ARP head bolts, so that should be able to keep everything nice and tight between the cylinder head and also the block with the higher levels of boost. Then moving on, I've also put on a integrated engineering cam gear. This cam gear is adjustable, so we'll be able to maybe fine tune exactly where the power band falls in with the RPM band. Also, I went ahead and finally got the exhaust manifold from JDL Auto Design. It's very beautiful as far as the way the craftsmanship and the welding and how they brought everything together. There's quite a bit of a weight, I think, with these guys because they're providing a number of different exhaust manifolds, and I think one of the popular ones right now for them is the new BRZ. So they're kind of a little bit under the water right now with all the different requests that they had. So I'm really fortunate that I was able to squeeze this out before things got too crazy. But with it being as beautiful as it is, unfortunately I have to wrap it because I want to make sure that the heat stays down within the engine bay. So I went ahead and wrapped that, as you guys can see in the video there. Hopefully that'll help us with not only increasing decreasing spool time and increasing flow, but like I said, keeping heat down within the engine bay. The turbo, of course, is the Rack R49-550. If you haven't seen the video review on that, definitely go and check it out after this video. But after clocking the turbo, putting it in the right position, and having everything figured out as far as where I want to put things, it looks like it's a really good quality turbo. So I'm really happy with it, and I'm excited to see how it's going to perform. So I went ahead and got a turbo blanket. It's shown that turbo blankets decrease spool time as well, and also it's going to help us contain the heat where we need it to be. Then I've also sprayed the block and also the intake manifold and valve cover to make sure that it's white, and that's supposed to reduce some of the heat transfer from some other studies I've seen, but also it helps being able to see what's what when it's in that confined space of being up and under the Porsche Boxster. I've also put in a spacer between the intake manifold and the cylinder head to decrease the heat transfer between the two, to make sure that our intake temperatures are nice and cool, and we're keeping the density as we expect it to be once it gets there. I've also got a 70 millimeter throttle body adapter, and that's paired up with a 70 millimeter drive-by-wire throttle body. Normally the AEB has a drive-by cable, but we're just going to be switching over to wideband for tuning purposes and things of that nature, which we'll get to in just a second here. So with that, I went ahead and purchased a ECU from I think it's an Audi TT. It's an AWM ECU, wideband ME 7.5. That's really going to help as far as being able to tune everything. And with that, I had to switch over to a wideband harness. I'm using a harness off of I believe it's a 2002 Turbo Beetle S, and it's an AWP harness. So once again, the tuners, there's not too much they can do with the narrowband harnesses unless you start going to standalone and things of that nature. But I wanted to keep things a little bit more cost effective when it came to the ECU selection. So I wanted to go ahead and use the stock one. So hopefully everything will work out there. But there's quite a bit of cables and cords, and I'm not really sure where everything goes. So I'm going to probably need some help from you guys if you could provide it. If you know a little bit more about the harness than I do. Of course, with the increased horsepower, I need to increase the gapping in the piston rings. Therefore, there's going to be more blow-by. More blow-by means there's going to be more crap that could potentially be in the PVC system. So I went ahead and got a catch can. So I'm going to go ahead and have a catch can set up on this block using 6AN lines to be able to port that into the catch can so that it can be dumped out properly as necessary. On the belt side, I've went ahead and deleted the fan that's normally associated with the AEB. Normally it'll be off to the side. It's a belt-driven fan, but since that'll be installed in the Boxster up against the firewall, there's no need for it, so I went ahead and removed that. And also with the higher horsepower targets that we're looking at now, I thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and do a pinned out setup on the crank gear. There's a potential that with higher horsepower and higher basically load on that crank gear, there's a keyway that connects to the crankshaft that can shear off, and then of course everything immediately gets out of time. Things are moving pretty fast, and you can imagine the catastrophic damage that can cause. So to try to get around that, I'm going to go ahead and have to retime the motor and everything, but I'm going to be putting in that kit, and hopefully that'll be a little bit of an insurance policy against damage in the future. As far as the drivetrain, we have a flywheel that I went ahead and purchased, which is an OEM dual mass flywheel, 228 millimeter. And that's going to be paired up with a Ringer Racing Stage 4 clutch. This Stage 4 clutch is capable of 495 foot-pounds of torque, so it should be more than enough for this particular build, but also give us some room for the future if there's any other updates that we want to do. And also you can kind of see how they compare to the old and busted setup that I had before. On the injector side, I've decided to go with 1000cc injectors. The reason for 1000 cc's is because I'm going to be looking to use E85. So there's a lot of different reasons why E85 is a good choice for boosted motors. We could probably even have another video about E85 and my experience with that. But it's plentiful out here in Colorado. It's higher octane. Things burn a little bit cooler. So since it's a little bit cooler, we can be a little bit more aggressive on the tune. And so anyway, end up getting 1000cc Bosch injectors. You can see the pictures there of the before and after when I received them, because I purchased them online through someone on one of the Facebook groups. It needed a little bit of cleaning. It was flowing at about 960 cc's. After they cleaned it up, it ended up flowing at 1008. And it's kind of interesting to see the before and after photos of the flow pattern. And this is the first time I've ever worked with a fuel injector kind of clinic or specialist, and so it's been kind of interesting to learn a little bit more about the system. And to support this, in order to get 1000 cc's for these injectors, you need to have a four bar fuel pressure regulator. So that's also in the mail, and I'll be installing that as well. Got an air to water intercooler. Purchased that off of a guy who was getting rid of it off of Craigslist. 3-inch inlet, 3-inch outlet. Not too much to say about that. Hopefully it works well. But obviously, if you saw some of the other videos, I explained that I'll need kind of a air to water intercooler setup, since it's going to be a little bit of an issue having a front mount intercooler on something like a Porsche Boxster where there's no space for it. And so that's pretty much it. I mean, that's all I have for this. I just want to kind of go over the plan for this this build. What I'm looking to do is basically drop out the motor and the transmission in one piece sometime in early January, using a 1,000 pound hydraulic table. This hydraulic table will allow me to kind of get right up underneath that motor and transmission and slowly drop it out through the bottom after, of course, raising the Porsche to a level that will be able to clear that out. There's still some things that I need to work out, which is the vacuum. So, and like I said, if you guys know anything about this on how to kind of simplify the AEB vacuum system and that while using a big turbo, that would be greatly appreciated. And also just kind of the ins and outs of what sensors and everything I need to have on this using that AWP harness. There's quite a bit of new plugs that I'm not sure where they will go, but the AEB has far less because it's a little bit more of an older block. So that's just one thing I need to figure out. Once all this stuff is buttoned up, then I can start pulling the motor, and so I'm really excited to get to the next step. So that's all I have for you guys today. Once again, if you have any questions or comments and everything, please leave them in the section below. Also, if you have any ideas as far as those two items, the vacuum or the wiring harness, let me know. I definitely will appreciate that. But in the end, have a great holiday. Spend some time with your family and have a great time. Stay safe, and I'll catch you guys in 2021.